There are some game soundtracks so big, so good, so widely regarded as classic that they almost fall by the wayside when discussing game music. It's like talking about the Beatles. Everyone knows the Beatles are good and incredibly influential. Talking about them seems unnecessary and superfluous. So I decided that I'm going to talk about these soundtracks, the big ones. And not just soundtracks that I love personally, but the big, dumb, obvious ones. I'm talking about Ocarina of Time, Super Metroid, Halo, Bastion, Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Trigger, and more. It's easy to be wrapped up in how overplayed and over-talked about these soundtracks are that we forget why we even love them in the first place, and this series of reviews will try to revitalize that. Mega Man 2 is the go-to best of the NES soundtrack. In some people's minds, it's almost gotten to the point of being overdone, since it's included in pretty much every best of video game music list. It's covered on every VGM YouTube channel, and OC Remix has 75 tracks just for this one game. But what makes the soundtrack so loved? Out of the hundreds of great NES soundtracks and the many Mega Man games for the system, why does the second entry stand out? First off, we need some context. The original Mega Man released in 1987 had Maname Matsume as the composer. Matsume has resurged recently as a prominent person in the indie game scene, but at this point, she was just another one of the many anonymous Capcom composers with silly aliases in the credits. The soundtrack to Mega Man 1 introduced the rock style the series is famous for, as well as many jingles and sound effects. So why does the game have a rock style in the first place? Well, besides fitting the Japanese name of the game's protagonist, Rockman, rock fits into the limitations of the NES. Musically, the NES has 5 total voice channels. The sample channel wasn't used in the first 2 Mega Man titles, so that leaves 4 channels. 2 somewhat customizable square channels, a very rigid triangle channel, best used for bass, and the noise channel, best used for drums. Most rock bands are only going to have 3 or 4 members, so the limitations make emulating a band much easier than trying to copy after an orchestra or chamber ensemble, or something like that. And for a first entry in a series, Mega Man has a fun and varied soundtrack. The closing track is the standout. But Mega Man 2 took all of the rock sensibilities from the first and brought them to a whole new level. The first track you hear lets you know this right off the bat, as it's a remix of the credits theme for Mega Man 1. It then launches into a driving and fun anthem that lets you know exactly what you're getting into. Mega Man 2 released in 1988 for the NES, just a year after the original, and this time with Tateishi writing the music. The entire game shows progress from the first, as it feels better and looks better, plus it has 8 Robot Masters to fight instead of just 6. The band influences are all over the place with this soundtrack, with several more outright Latin tracks and tracks that are most akin to metal. Though, like much game music for the NES, it's in a category all its own. Metalman Stage could certainly be performed in a Latin style with its distinct bass and melody lines, but the drums are driving in a manner more like a march than a standard rock beat. And I have no clue how to really musically describe Flashman Stage, besides fun. The biggest song from this game, though, is easily Wily Stage 1. If a song from a video game can be overplayed, it's this song. It's not as ubiquitous as something like the Zelda or Mario theme, but in the game music corner of the internet, you hear and see this song a lot. Of the 75 tracks for Mega Man 2, OC Remix has 18 remixes just of this one song. And in the ubiquity of the song, it's easy to forget that the track sums up everything that makes the game's soundtrack work. The driving triplets and the unexpected modulation into the B section feel more distinctly like metal. But again, you can't really put it in a genre box, as the drums are fairly light and don't change at all throughout the song, a very unmetal thing to do. But this track leads to the major reason why the soundtrack is so loved, and that's its melodies. Each of the tracks has a distinctive melody that can easily be sung. There's an infinite number of ways to write a good and catchy melody, but one of the methods is to use lots of repetition and keep it in a range that most people can sing or hum. Crash Band Stage is a perfect example of both, with a melody that's only 5 notes with almost the exact same notes over and over again to get in your head, but enough variation to keep it from being annoying. Annoying and catchy are a very fine line to walk, but Tateishi creates a soundtrack where half the tracks can get stuck in your head but not drive you crazy. Mega Man 2 is among the finest NES soundtracks to be released. The rock sensibilities and incredible melodies create a timeless soundtrack that transcends its limitations and sits among the best game soundtracks of all gaming history. That's all for this week. Listen well.